let's start with the obvious. I heard you talking about this the other day. This petition, as I'm told, is reaching. I mean, it's going gargantuan. But was I right or was I wrong to Tracy Northumberland? I completely and utterly appreciate and understand the frustrations. I think this government have no plan. I think they've run. They ran without any plan, and I think they got in through the back door because of the Tories' incompetence. But the King will not, in a constitutional monarchy, get involved, will he, Benedict Spence?
No, he won't. There's no chance in hell the King is going to do that. No. As much as anything else, because he'll put he'll set himself up against one of the two major political parties of this country. They'll never forgive him, and the next time they get into power, they'll do their level best actually to get rid of the monarchy, which actually they'd be probably able to do if they got a big enough majority. If the government that they replaced did a bad enough job, as happened at the last election. Look, I understand people's desire to sort of voice their discontent, sign a petition, whatever. This petition isn't going to do anything. It is quite literally the next best thing next to doing nothing is going online and clicking a few buttons and putting your postcode in. That's not political activism. That's not some sort of great big achievement.
What is political activism? Because I will speak for those people who will tell you, and a caller said it just now, she's frightened that if she goes out in the streets because she's upset about immigration, disappointed with what's happening in the NHS, she's going to be labelled far right and arrested. And I understand that sentiment, Benedict. You must as well.
I do. Nobody's saying go out and have impromptu protests or demonstrations outside migration centres. That's a very silly way of doing it. And people should be aware that a government that is set up to try and trap you like that will go out of its way to try to create offences whereby it can silence dissent, will be well ahead of that. You shouldn't do that. What you should do is join a political party or set one up yourself. There are political parties. I understand people are furious with the Conservatives. And this was always the thing that got me, though. How many signatures are there now on this petition? About 2 million.
No, 2.3 million now, rising all the time.
Yeah. Between them, the Conservatives and Reform have fewer than 200,000 members. Wouldn't it be revolutionary if those people, all those people who had signed this petition, joined a political party or set one up themselves? They might actually get something done rather than just go, well, I've signed it, I've done my bit, but I daren't go outside because I might get arrested. Fine, but join a political party that can actually change things, influence that party. And this is one of the things that really does irritate me. Everybody was getting very upset about the state of the Tories for the last couple of years in government. Same here, furious with them. But very few of those people had any skin in the game. And those people who were upset when Liz Truss became leader, well, if you're not a member, you don't get a say. That's how it works. It's the same with the Labour Party. That's how we got Corbyn. And all of those people saying, isn't it a disgrace that they've selected Jeremy Corbyn? If you don't like it, join and vote against it.
Completely. And I just said to her, mate, the 44% of people who didn't vote in the last general election need to look in the mirror. I completely agree with that. Just very quickly, I spoke to Peter Bleksley. And really interesting. Former Met Chief Lord Hogan Howe today calls for the review of non-crime hate incidents, which, according to James Price and Peter Bleksley, is a bit bloody rich because it was Lord Hogan Howe that took intel people off the streets and all that sort of stuff, which is what policing is about. We've also had the Home Office today issuing common sense guidance for non-crime hate. Is this not just common sense? I don't understand why... listen, we use the example the whole time. It's the best example. The woman who wrote that dreadful thing about the Muslim community, for me, should have been educated and spent time with the Muslim community and be told and explained to why she shouldn't write such vile stuff. No, she gets 15 months, but Hugh Edwards and other paedophiles are free to walk the streets. How does that work, Benedict? What does that say to you about policing?
Non-crime hate incidents are a travesty. We shouldn't have. If it is already against the law to be racist against people, it is already against the law to be homophobic towards people. If you cross over the line and actually, use your voice to spread hate, you can be prosecuted and you will be.
It's how you define hate, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you want to get into that sort of side route of what is hate, what is anti-Semitism, what is other things, etc. That's a different thing. But we do have those laws. That's the point. There is a criminal category that does exist. We have absolutely no business setting up a parallel set of standards for which we, very deliberately, we don't take people to court for them because most people would say that's a ridiculous thing to prosecute somebody for.
But the police are wasting their time. So let me give you an example. Yeah. It is perfectly feasible. I know this is true, whatever you tell me. You could put the phone down and go, I didn't like the fact that he said my moustache looked like a rat and report me to the police and say that that was a hate crime. And two policemen would come and visit me, and yet an old lady in Leytonstone this afternoon who's probably going to be burglared ain't getting a visit. That's why people are hacked off, Benedict. That is true, right?
That is true. And again, they do that because it's easy. It is low hanging fruit. I was about to say it's low hanging fruit. It's already on the floor. It's fallen off the tree. It means
Yeah.
it is the minimal amount of effort. If you like, it's a bit like signing a petition online and expecting the government to just dissolve itself. It doesn't actually solve anything. It goes after people who are not career criminals. And it's a bit like today, Keir Starmer tweeted out, about spiking drinks. We're going to make it illegal. It's already illegal to spike somebody's drinks, to drug somebody against that. But if I just say it, if I make it look as if I'm getting tough on these things, if it looks as if the police are attending, this incident or that, it looks like we're getting ahead of crime whilst not actually putting in the heavy lifting. Absolutely. And I think that increasingly it is a position that is mirrored both in politics and outside of things. People don't want to put in the effort because they feel actually that they won't be rewarded for doing so. People don't want to fight crime because they think it's too hard work. They might get attacked. The police, I'm talking about the police here, they think that they'll be the ones who'll be called racist if they're accused of profiling somebody, which has happened. It's a bit of a vicious circle in this country, and it really does need a government, and I'm sorry, this might sound a bit authoritarian, to stamp the foot a little bit and go, no, we're going to uphold the law. This is not...
Here. But that's my point. You say, look as if. Did you watch Liz Kendall on Sky with Trevor Phillips talking about how, in her mind, self-diagnosed mental health problems could be fueling the benefits bill? She said it through gritted teeth. I'm looking at her thinking, this is Tory language. This is language that I've been talking about for years. Don't tell me of the 4 million people that are unemployed, they're all mentally ill or disabled. There are a large number, and that's why we should support those people. But it is also, for many, I'm afraid, this will get them going, it's become a bloody career choice, and it's wrong. But I didn't believe a word she was saying. It's almost as if we say that we'll look good. You're right about a government. I don't call it authoritarian. I call it conviction. I call it a Thatcher or a Blair who says, this is my plan, come with me. If you don't come with me, I've been voted in, I'm doing it, you can be detractors. I don't believe Starmer's got that conviction. I don't believe he's got that plan. I don't believe he's got foresight at all. I think he's a bore. I just don't think intellectually... he's a lawyer, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, this
reactive.
Is for too long in this country, we had the view of the lawyer as being a bit like Rumpole of the Bailey. Brilliant, able to come up with arguments, creative. And it's not true. Actually, most lawyers in this country, they read the book, they learn what's in the legislation, and they follow it by the letter. And that's why you always find when somebody suggests, well, we could leave this treaty, or we could change that treaty, or get rid of this.
No.
All the lawyers go, no, because then they'd have to learn something new. It would completely rip up their worldview.
That's really brilliant. Now, those are the serious things, but a man with a sense of humour also has to deal with the two things that just sent me over the edge today. Nottingham University has been accused... I don't even know what this means, people. Please, Benedict Spence will now impart his wisdom. Nottingham University has been accused of reverse engineering historic links to slavery by an aristocratic family after a report claimed they profited off it. The report claimed that the 7th Duke of Portland, probably a relative of yours, whose ancestors... That was just a joke, not a hate crime. Whose ancestors helped establish the university and who was one of its most distinguished benefactors, gained from the social capital of his slave-owning ancestors... He died in 1977, but now the university have turned on him. Where does it end, Benedict Spence? Where does it end?
It ends when we say enough, when enough people actually say enough, and when politicians also stop giving in to this nonsense. It's very fashionable and trendy. That's why they put up with all of these things. And the reason why it's fashionable and trendy is because it's happening in the United States. In America, in the United States, where slavery was a day-to-day fact, it is very much part of the political discourse there. And we exist in the mind of our politicians who all believe that they exist in the West Wing. We exist entirely downstream of them. That's why when you have things like Black Lives Matter in America, suddenly it becomes a major issue here. We never have had the sort of race relations and the sort of hatred and violence that they've had in the United States, but we have to accept all of this. And again, yes, Britain profited off the slave trade. And when we say Britain, we have to be very clear here. We mean lots of already very wealthy people did even better because they were the ones with the resources. The ordinary peasants, the ordinary people in the mills, in the fields, they did not benefit of slavery, and it is outrageous to assume that their ancestors now should pay for this. But this did happen, fair enough. But again, we go back to the central point about all of this. The moment that Britain ceases to be a major power is as the end result of a decision that it took when it decided to outlaw slavery and turn huge amounts of its nation's resources and military towards outlawing it. The invasion of countries like Benin and much across West Africa, the wars against the North African sultanates, all of these things, incredibly costly, incredibly violent. Lots of people died. Why? To put an end to slavery. And that is the part of history that is just as important as talking about the bad things that we did. We went to war against a slave trade that has existed for as long as human civilization has existed.
Here, you put it so well. You're in trouble, though, pal. People can't even afford to pay their heating bills, let alone 40 quid odd to join a political party. Who the hell does Benedict Spence think he is? Says Benedict.
Well, that's unfortunate, but it means if that's your attitude, if you can't even find the time to leaflet on behalf of a political party, if that's genuinely your attitude, well, you can't actually be surprised when other people who make the time get their way. And this is all,
he's on one today, kids, isn't he?
I mean, look at the states of many of our MPs. A lot of them have kids of their own. They have second jobs. These are people who have found the time because this was what was important to them. And okay, they are now doing things that we don't like. If this is really important to you, if your life is really being wrecked by politics, get involved in politics.
I might well do that.
Being wrecked off.
Well, listen, I'll definitely have you in the... I definitely have you, Chief. I've got quite a few Chief of Staffs, haven't I? I think you'd definitely be there. Finally, Benedict, this is very important. Wokery risks killing off the ancient tradition of kissing under the mistletoe at Christmas. This is according to the UK's leading supplier of the plants. Around a quarter as much of the festive foliage is up for grabs this year as at Britain's only annual mistletoe auctions in Tenbury and Worcester compared to past decades. Once a staple of the office party, sprigs are now rarely bought by young people. Renowned auctioneer Nick, Mr. Mistletoe champion, lamented. Apparently, if you try and kiss somebody on the mistletoe, it could be taken in the wrong way. I pointed out earlier the old Christmas parties, the old office Christmas party, when you had to photocopy your ass and send. I mean, I'm being serious. The world's gone. What's gone wrong with? Are you going to kiss anybody? No. No.
Well, I mean, not with this moustache. The only place that I find that sort of action is at the RAF Club Christmas party, and I'm not invited this year. I mean, it's as much to do with, people talking about, wokery and sexual assault and all that sort of thing, but also I think it's probably because, and you put your finger on it there, the office Christmas party, a lot of people just aren't going into offices anymore. Actually, who is going to be bothering to turn up for an office Christmas party? There's not going to be the same sense of needing to get drunk and say things that you might regret to your office colleague because you haven't seen that person in half a year. I think it's a very different culture, and I don't think it's just to do with wokery. I think, again, it's because of that change in how we work, which was, of course, brought in by COVID and working remotely.
But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a kiss under the mistletoe, is there?
No, of course not. I mean, provided you know who it is. I mean, perhaps not. I don't know. I'm probably not going to be invited to Talk's Christmas party either at this rate.
Well, there isn't a Talk Christmas party, but I'm actually having a drive. I'm having a drive time Christmas party, and they're all bringing their partners. And you are Ryan, send Benedict. The poor bugger needs to come. He hasn't been invited any. You can come along, Benedict, with your moustache. Lovely to have you on, my friend. Thank you very much indeed.